Okay, so cool. Let's try this out in practice. So here we are in our editor. Here's our form HTML. We're going to have to edit this to make it a little bit more complex. And I'm going to put in a few new lines as well to make it a little bit easier to read. So I'm done editing the HTML. I've actually only made a fairly small change, but I put some new lines in here so we can read it. So now we've got label, the string month, which is what it said before, and our input field. And I've added this new value parameter for month. And I've added another one for day and another one for year. And we're going to pass these values in to our function below so that our form renders extra values. Okay, so let's edit the function below and put this whole thing together. We're going to edit now our write form function. We're already passing an error. Let's add in the other parameters. So I'm adding the extra parameters, and they're all going to have defaults to blank, month, day, and year. Nothing crazy about that. And let's also edit our dictionary that we pass into the form to use these variables. We've updated the dictionary. Now we're passing these variables into this dictionary, which gets passed into our form string. And so now whenever we write the form, our form function, our write form function, can take extra variables to populate the form. Let's make sure everything still works the way it did before we go ahead and call this function. Here we are in our browser. Let's type in some junk, submit our form, and see if everything works. Okay, we didn't get an exception, nothing broke, so we're in good shape. Let's go ahead and get these fields populated. Here's our new write form function. Here's our post function. Here we've got our three variables that represent what the user entered. We're getting them from the request here. Let's edit our post function to use these new variables. Now we're going to have to restructure this a little bit because right now we're calling valid month on the request parameters. And if one of these parameters is invalid, we're just going to get false back. And that's not what we want. So we need to change just a little bit. So let's restructure this. So I got rid of our calls to valid month, day, and year. And user month just equals what the user actually entered in for month, day, and year. And then I'm going to use different variables to test their validity. And I'll add those now. Okay, so I separated the calling of valid month, day, and year from fetching the parameter out of the request. And this is so we can have both variables that represent whether the values are valid or not, and also variables that represent what the user actually entered, because we may have to reuse those. Okay, so let's change our validity check now to use the proper variables. Okay, I've changed our validity check here to make sure we're using month, day, and year now, those variables, instead of user month, day, and year. And now let's change our call to write form. And now I'm passing in the strings that the user originally entered into our form so that when we have an error, we'll render the form with whatever the user typed in. Let's give this a shot in production. So we've got our form. Let's type in some junk. When we submit our form now, what we should see is an error message, and our form field should still have our values in it. There we go. So it doesn't even look like our form was re-rendered because all that appeared was our error message. That's pretty neat, huh? And let's make sure that submitting correct answers still works. Okay, so we're going to enter in real data. This is going to go through our validators. And let's submit this form. Success. So it rejected our bad form and it accepted our good form. That's pretty cool. So I've entered in a normal day and a normal year, but in the month I've entered in a quote and some more text. What's going to happen when I click the submit button? Are we going to see an error message and our inputs will be in the form, our normal error behavior? We'll see an error message, but the quote messes up our HTML. Will we cause an error on the server side? Or will the page just render blank?